And we're back. Today we are talking all about domains and how to run them in Dungeons & Dragons. Let's start with defining our terms. A domain is any area on your game map that is controlled by a player. They rule over it, they have conquered it, it is their kingdom. Generally speaking, there are two parts to running your domain. There's the boring bookkeeping aspect, and then there's the war game that's attached to it. And one of them is kind of meh and leads to the death of your character. A lot of people consider the domain play your retirement. Your character just kind of becomes a bookkeeping NPC. But I'm going to give you a sneak peek in how the other half lives. We like to go to war, and it is fun. But I have included timestamps down below to help you navigate through this video if you are only interested in some parts. So let's start with the bookkeeping aspects first, because you will need to run this and manage this yourself. It's far too much to ask of your dungeon master. You'll need to start with choosing a place on the map. Whether you have conquered an enemy lair and you're taking over their castle, or you're building your own, you'll need to clear that hex of any existing monsters. Now, The Joy of Wargaming, John Mollison, his channel on YouTube, he's currently going through a solo play of how to set up and build your own keep. He's clearing the hex of monsters. I will link his videos in the description below. He's an excellent resource to everybody. He's one of the main influences for why I even started this channel, so you should absolutely go watch his videos. The next thing to consider is the construction costs and the time for building your keep. Every system has some rules set out for this. AD&D has it, OSC and Basic Expert. Even 5th edition with Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers will detail how long it'll take to build your castle and how much that's going to cost. Next up, income. This works best if your gold pieces are directly tied to your experience points, because that way, as you bring in income into your hex and your kingdom grows, you will be exponentially growing in level as well. So your income is going to come to you in two parts. The first part is through taxation of the peasantry. You should be getting 1 gold piece per peasant per month. As you conquer more hexes and your kingdom grows, then you'll be generating more through taxation. But this is an abstraction and not really an exciting aspect of Dungeons & Dragons, but it is a necessary aspect because you want to keep growing your influence and your power, and you need gold to do that. The next way to make income is through the resources that are in your hex. Your dungeon master will generate these randomly as he's creating the world. This again is an abstraction, but I use the BECMI rules from the Rules Encyclopedia to determine what is located inside the hex that is of value. This can take on a lot of different forms: livestock, lumber, mines like gold and silver mines, that sort of thing. Each of these resources is going to give you a set amount of gold every month. It's an abstraction again of, as you're pulling resources out of the earth, you're able to turn those resources into materials that you can sell or just generate income with. But it has practical uses in the game too, but we're going to get to those in just a little bit later. The last step is you need to deduct your monthly fees for paying for your soldiers. Also, you'll have to pay the liege lord, the king of the land, the emperor maybe, their taxes. Some churches might tithe you at a steep cost, and you'll need to take that into account as well. But whatever's left over after you've paid off your soldiers and you've paid your taxes, that's how much gold you bring in and how much XP you'll gain. I have a video that I'll link below where I break down how I do it for Sir Bedivere, my knight, that I've been running for multiple years in a 1-to-1 campaign, and I'll put a link for that in the description. Before we get into the really fun stuff, please hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos just like this. Now let's dive into the war aspect of this game. I promise, establishing your domain does not mean your character is retired. This is when the game actually begins, but this style of play is not for everyone, and I don't suggest that you just adopt it at your table and completely change the format and style of what your players are expecting. This is more of a conversation that you have before you engage in this. But if everyone is on board, it is going to be the most fun you've ever had in Dungeons & Dragons. So let's zoom out a little bit. You are a high-level adventurer. You have conquered many dungeons, you've saved the world, you've acquired magic items and gold and treasure, and you've built this castle and you cleared out all the monsters, you're continually gathering resources and revenue. Now, the other members of your adventuring party, whether they were your rivals or your allies, they're doing the exact same thing. At a certain point, you're going to want to expand your borders, move another hex out, gather more treasure, more resources. And you know what? Your buddies are going to do the same thing. And eventually, you're going to bump into each other. They might want to take your stuff, or maybe you want to take theirs. And this is when the fog of war becomes so important. At this stage in the game, players are sending secret orders to the Dungeon Master about how they're moving their troops, where they're expanding, and what they're conquering. Players are sabotaging each other and engaging in war. So how do we do this? The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to have to hire some troops. Systems will have built into their core rulebooks the hiring process for getting soldiers and troops, men-at-arms. I found the most detailed of these is in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, but if you are a 5th edition player, you can also access, again, Matt Colville's Kingdoms and Warfare. In it, he details the kind of combat and warfare that we're discussing in this video. And now we're getting into the meat of strategy. The first thing you're going to want to do, identify where on your hex map are your resources. Do you have a gold mine? You're going to want to build fortifications and man troops by those mines. You need to be able to defend them because people are coming for them. Next, you're going to want to pave the roads between your major keep and any of your outposts and resources. You're going to want to man these roads with scouts, light armor or no armor, but they're mounted on horses. They need to be able to get to the different fortifications as quickly as possible, and you can speed up travel on roads by 50%. These troops are going to clash, and you have to resolve this using the combat rules of the system of your choice. Using classic rules, there are 2 schools of thought. There's the chainmail style, where you resolve quickly with d6s. If you don't know who Alchemical Rager is, I'm going to link him below. He has a bunch of great systems. He just did Hellmarch for Shadowdark. He's an excellent resource for everybody. And then on the other side, there's 10-to-1 scaling, where you use 1 miniature to represent a unit of 10 men. You roll your normal attacks with your d20s, and you hit, and they clash and kill each other in that way. But clever players are going to use information gathering to help them succeed before the battle even takes place. So a lot of old school systems have, in the class description of the assassin, a table that details different assassination levels, the amount of XP and gold you earn from it. And players often don't know what to do with this because it's impossible really to use this table in the dungeon in any effective way. It's because this table is actually used in Braunstein or player versus player aspects of Dungeons & Dragons. So smart domain players will hire low-level assassins. This could take the form of assassins generated by the Dungeon Master, but more fun would be hiring other players to assassinate. All of the units that your enemies possess and the units that you control, they are all ruled by lieutenants and by captains. So, if you send an assassin to take out a lieutenant or a captain, you can force a morale check before the battle even begins. If they see that their captain has been slain, they fail their morale check, the group disbands, and the army just dissolves right before your eyes. And whoever comes out on top, all of those resources are theirs. You started off as an adventurer, you conquered lands, and hopefully you eliminate all of your enemies and you become the emperor or the king. Now, for all of this to be resolved in a fair way for every player, your dungeon master must keep strict time records. And so, at my table, we track the in-game calendar directly tied to the real-world calendar. We call this one-to-one time. I will be making a video about this subject coming very soon, but until then, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.